Good evening. This Week 5 recording discussion is brought to you by Group F, whose members are Mike Dixon, Dallas Elmore, and Anthony Kuzer. The reading assignments for this week include Meeting the Challenges of an Aging Workforce from the American Journal of Industrial Medicine, Supporting the Aging Workforce from the Annual Review of Organizational Psychology and Organizational Behavior, Managing Risks of an Aging Workforce from ConstructionExecutive.com, and No Time to Retire from DoLight.com. The theme of this week's reading assignment is the aging workforce, the intense demand for skilled workers, risks associated with employing older individuals, and potential solutions for filling position vacancies while keeping more mature workers safe on the job. In this presentation, we will dive into the following topics: the rapid aging of America's workforce, the reality that people are working and living longer, why older workers are considered a valuable generation, the strategies for retaining and recruiting an aging workforce, initiatives that can help to keep older workers safe, and how focusing on older workers can be good for business. We will conclude today's presentation with a summary from this assignment and discussion questions for our classmates. So let's dive into our first topic, the rapid aging of America's workforce. America's and the world's workforce is rapidly aging, and many baby boomers, the large generation in the U.S., are retiring. From now until the year 2030, nearly 250,000 individuals are retiring each month. A competitive job market, an improving economy, and far fewer individuals entering the workforce mean strategies and solutions are needed for business and industry to stay afloat. As stated by the author of Meeting the Challenges of an Aging Workforce, demographic labor market and economic forces are combining to produce increases in the number and percentage of U.S. workers age 55 and older, a vulnerable group, but also our most skilled and productive employees. To begin, let's take a look behind the numbers and the reality. Startling stats. There are more workers in their 50s and 60s than ever before. There are not enough individuals to replace baby boomers in the labor market. The growth rate of workers age 55 plus is 4 times labor market growth. In 2024, 1 in 4 workers will be 55 years or older. In 1994, it was 1 in 10. Reality. Most organizations are unprepared for the age demographic shift. There will be a greater demand for experienced and skilled workers. Older workers tend to be stereotyped, okay boomer, by younger coworkers. Companies tend to focus on risks versus benefits of older employees. Let's now, based on this week's reading assignments, dive into why people are working longer, which could in fact be a solution to meeting the current labor challenges and demands. The good news is, from a labor market standpoint, people are living and working longer. This is good news for business and industry. But part of the reality of this is many people can't afford to retire and will have to keep working as they grow older. Why not retire? There are a multitude of reasons, some of which are people are financially unprepared, fewer pensions exist today, changes to Social Security and other retirement regulations, people are living and maintaining their quality of life longer, and/or they just might not be ready to hang it up, and the pursuit of a second chance career or a career do-over. When you dive deeper into the numbers behind age expectancy and worker demographics, the results are somewhat surprising, but with some good news. As we look behind the numbers, we can see the median worker age has changed from 35 in 1984 to 40.3 in 2004 to 41.6 in 2014. The number of workers 55 and older increased by 49% between 2004 and 2014. Life expectancy has increased by 3 years every decade and by 50% since the early 1900s. Whether by choice or necessity, 85% of baby boomers plan to continue working into their 70s and 80s. So why should employers embrace older workers, and how does doing so impact business outcomes? There are many benefits that far outweigh limited risks. Let's now look at the value of older workers and some strategies companies should consider. From the authors of Supporting the Aging Workforce, we learn of research-based findings that reiterate the value of older workers. What an older worker brings to the office, plant, or facility is that they tend to select/settle into jobs that match their competence. They have the experience that normally equates to improved job performance. They tend to have safer work practices. Older workers have fewer non-fatal on-the-job injuries or illnesses. Wine and bourbon aren't the only thing that will improve with age. Older workers tend to be more agreeable and less neurotic. They tend to be more self-disciplined. They are motivated by connecting with others, having autonomy, and helping society. And they are less motivated by seeking promotions or seeking out negative relationships. There are risks associated with older workers. While they are skilled and productive, they are also most vulnerable to workplace injuries. Older workers can suffer from age-related conditions, such as limited physical strength, reduced muscle mass, reduced bone density, reduced visual acuity, and hearing loss. Older workers tend to increase an organization's healthcare expenditures. There are greater risks of a work-limiting disability in older employees, 13% for 60 years and older versus 3.4% for those 18 to 28 years of age. While there are risks, the benefits of retaining older workers is far greater. Mental and physical changes do not necessarily lead to reduced performance or productivity, and despite the risks and other health factors, many older individuals remain productive at work. The following strategies are from this week's reading assignment, Supporting the Aging Workforce, a research review and recommendations for workplace interventions. Let's take a look at these strategies shared by the authors that support older workers in an age-diverse workforce. Selection, optimization, and compensation. Training to assist older workers with selecting tasks and skills to better fit their abilities and their interests. Work redesign. Giving workers more autonomy to do their jobs through a variety of skills. Increasing positive relations between groups. Offer leader diversity training geared towards managing older workers and how to turn age differences among teams into a strength. Training geared specifically towards older employees by using smaller groups, allowing self-led discussions, allowing more times for questions and comprehension, as well as hands-on training. Helping workers throughout lifespan, using career management interventions, job changes, part-time work, and flexible schedules. The authors acknowledge the lack of research currently available and programs in place to address this growing issue. As stated by the authors, aging of the global workforce is an issue already impacting industrialized societies, and it is expected to grow in the coming decades. Additional research is needed to identify support tactics for workers of all ages, discover holistic, integrated interventions, gain a better understanding of chronological age as a construct, and adapt technology to better fit worker needs. Another important aspect as the American workforce ages is for companies to consider initiatives that can help keep older workers safe while at work. In the online article, Managing Risks of an Aging Workforce, published by ConstructionExec.com, the author states, American workforce is aging, creating new challenges for employers, creating a need to revisit and revamp safety initiatives to address the needs of older workers. The author shares 5 areas that can improve the safety of older workers. 1. Design and implement hands-on training/orientation programs. Offerings should focus on high-risk exposure categories for older workers. For example, fall prevention, ergonomics, etc. Training programs can also address physical, cognitive, and psychosocial factors. Address ergonomics. Ensure fatigue and rest work cycles are addressed. Evaluate signage, lighting, as well as age-specific job hazards, repetition rates, and strength capabilities. 3. Benefit programs aligned with age trends. Consider lost work time data, FMLA, disability, workers' comp, absentee trends to develop programs and policies geared towards older workers. Examples would be job sharing, flexible work schedules, and part-time status with health insurance coverage. 4. Wellness initiatives based on injury trends and workers' comp claims. Like benefit programs based on trends, wellness programs too should be built around keeping workers, specifically older employees, safe while on the job. Health coaching, on-the-clock stretching or flexing, annual physicals offered on site, and diabetes testing can all pay dividends. 5. Engage human resources for assistance. Lastly, safety professionals should work closely with their colleagues in HR to use data to create a worker age profile. This information can then be used along with job-specific physical demands, job descriptions, and programs to assess both new hires and incumbent employees for physical abilities. While this article was specific to the construction industry, many of the suggestions shared to address opportunities to improve the safety of older workers can be utilized in any industry. Nearly all businesses and industries are struggling to fill vacancies and retain talent during these unprecedented times. Focusing on older workers can be more than a retention and recruiting strategy. It can also be a tactic to drive an organization's success. In the Do Light Insights article, the authors make the case for retaining and recruiting older workers and how doing so can impact workplace culture and an organization's bottom line. Listed here are examples of positive impacts from retaining and recruiting older workers. Older workers tend to have higher levels of engagement compared to millennials who have the lowest, and engaged workers tend to be safer on the job. Experienced workers can fill voids in talent and fill crucial position vacancies. According to this article, finding qualified workers is the #1 challenge for businesses, a challenge that will only continue. Older workers tend to be more experienced as well. Research has shown older workers are just as creative as younger ones, and while they may work a little slower at times, they tend to produce better quality. Mature workers have stronger relationship skills, positive attitudes, comply with policies more often, and listen to instructions. Lastly, not only is the number of mature workers growing, so too is the number of mature customers. Older workers tend to understand and know what the customer base is needing and looking for. The benefits of older workers were also highlighted by the author of Meeting the Challenges of an Aging Workforce, Michael Silverstein, who said, "Employers who establish age-friendly workplaces which promote and support the workability of employees as they age may gain in safety, productivity, competitiveness, and sustainable business practices." In summary, our presentation today discussed that aging of the workforce is an issue that is already impacting industrialized societies, and it is expected to grow even more in the coming decades. The positives of an aging workforce, including their experience, being more agreeable and self-disciplined, and their motivation by connecting with others, having autonomy, and helping society. We also covered the strategies for recruiting and retaining an aging workforce, as well as tactics to keep an aging workforce safe at work. To close, we would like to leave you with a quote from Nelson Mandela that is certainly pertinent to today's discussion. "A society that does not value its older people denies its roots and endangers its future. Let us strive to enhance their capacity to support themselves for as long as possible, and when they cannot do so anymore, to care for them." Thank you for the opportunity to share this information, and we hope that you learned something from our presentation. Discussion questions for the class. 1. How does your company teach the differences between generations and the impact on communication? 2. How should a company accommodate a worker in later stages of life, for example, if they showed signs of memory loss due to Alzheimer's? 3. Why would or should your company pursue workers aged 60 to 80 years old? 4. How can we design an improved ergonomics program to fit the aging population as it applies to sprains and strains? 5. How do you fit a job to the aging worker? Please be specific. 6. Knowing aging workforce has specific needs, how do we ensure fairness among all employees while catering to those needs? 7. When an aging employee works a labor role, how would you proactively identify when to move them into another position to protect them from injury?